Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Entrepreneurs Lounge radio show, where we expose the myths of entrepreneurship and release the weight of it all. Real people, real issues, and real talk with expert solutions. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show as we welcome our host, Alicia Brown, the Joy Guru.
And welcome to another episode of the Entrepreneurs Lounge radio show. I am your host, Alicia Brown, the Joy Guru. And tonight we're going to discuss how to take the fear out of entrepreneurship. Now, there is a cliche that sometimes you have to do it scared or you fake it till you make it. And while that might help you initially put one foot in front of the other, it's not a recipe for sustainable success. The truth of the matter is what you achieve starts with what you believe. And there's no one that can enlighten and equip us for that better than our own show's mindset coach, Miss Letitia Bates, the CEO of At the Will Coaching. So I want you to just applaud and actually welcome her at this time. Welcome, Letitia. How are you doing this evening?
Hello, Alicia. I am doing fantastic. Thank you.
Awesome. And, you know, one of the things I love is when our show's guests do part of my job for the episodes. And if you tune into our, you know, it's just a win-win for everybody. If you tuned into our last episode, Are You Ready to Pay the Cost to Be the Boss? Both guests did an awesome job in just talking about the importance of mindset. Despite some of their dire financial straits, their unique obstacles and challenges, neither quit, and now they're at new levels and record levels of success. So definitely, if you didn't listen to that episode, you'll learn how James Oliver raised over $435,000 for his company, although he almost lost his shirt. And you'll even hear about Janae Sasso, who went from homelessness and at one time having to survive with a family of four off $5,000 a year. So, Letitia, what I wanted to ask you about is we always hear about the importance of having a positive mindset and that the uber successful and the rich, they have a different mindset from the rest of the world. So can you dive in and really explain to us what is mindset, and then how do we obtain the mindset of someone who is really successful?
Well, the thing about mindset, if you look at the word, it's mindset. It's how you set your mind. It's where you set your mind, meaning what you give your attention to. So if you want to be successful, we live in this amazing time, right, where every single thing is at our fingertips. There is nothing that we can conceive of that we can't Google or read about or learn about. There are YouTube videos. There's 1,000 different ways to get information. And so we have successful people who are willing to share tips in these books or podcasts. And if we set our minds to that, if we make a decision that this is what we're going to use as our mental diet, we're going to read those books, we're going to put that in, then all of a sudden our set point changes in terms of what we believe is possible for us. So a mindset is about where you want to set your mind. And as an entrepreneur, if your goal is to, you know, whatever your business is about is to be the best at your business, then you've got to go to people who have done what it is that you're achieving to do and set your mind in the ways that they're setting theirs. And again, this is the best time in history to be on the planet and doing what entrepreneurs are doing.
And I want you to also, if you don't mind, delve into that. Because there are some listeners who might feel like they don't recognize this as the best time in history. Not saying that it's not, but maybe they just never looked at it that way.
Yeah, so I mean, if you think about, you know, even 10, 15 years ago, what you had access to has changed and shifted so dramatically with the power of the internet. And I get it. People go through challenges and they are having circumstances, and sometimes that emotional reality that you're dealing with, it just kind of weighs you down. But people have taken the time to document what they've done to be successful. Everybody from Bill Gates to Jeff Bezos, and for those who haven't written their own autobiographies, their biographies are written about their success. So if you've got a vision, there's a dream and a goal that's in your heart, and you know that it's something that can have a positive impact on the world and you can enrich the lives of other people, I believe you've got a moral obligation to bring that to fruition. And if you've got a mind that is set on failure because maybe you've done some things that haven't worked out, I challenge you and I invite you, I encourage you to shift your mind and look at people who've gone through some things and set your mind in the direction that they have set their mind. And take the time to actually study those principles of success, not just the technical aspects of your business, but the actual mind. What rituals are you engaging in? What daily routines do you have? Do you use prayer and meditation and affirmations? How are you feeding your mind, not just the technical aspects of your business?
And I love the fact that you mentioned that because one of the things a lot of times when an entrepreneur or a aspiring entrepreneur thinks of business, immediately that's what you think of, all the strategies, the systems. Do you need a coach? Do you need a program? The steps A through B. But the things you said about how are you feeding your mind? Are you praying over your business? Sometimes it's what seems like the most basic things that we overlook, and those are the things that are so pivotal to the success of our business.
Yeah, well, often as entrepreneurs, most of us start out as solopreneurs. So we're chief cook and bottle washer. We're doing everything. So we may be doing invoicing as well as servicing the client, as well as sending out emails, all the little pieces. And it's very important how we are talking to ourselves, what we're saying to ourselves about ourselves. That begins to reveal what we believe about ourselves. And if we believe things about ourselves that are less than positive, that's going to be reflected in the outcome of our business. We will not be able to serve the customer at the highest and best level because we're not showing up at the highest and best version of ourselves. That's why it's so important what we're saying to ourselves, what you say when you look in the mirror, when you say when you get up in the morning, what you say when you look at a sales report and it doesn't reflect the numbers that you desire it to be. You got to be willing to speak life to it and life to yourself because you're it. You're the soul of the business in the beginning.
And, that is so true. I think I posted on social media probably last week or it might have been earlier this week. I remember I was coming home and I had all these things I had done that day. I was looking at the yard and I'm just like, oh, my goodness, the yard needs to be cut. Now, mind you, I just, made a call. It's arranged the person that does the lawn care is going to come do the lawn care. But all I could focus on in that minute was how unkempt the yard looked to me. And then in that same second, there was just this trio of birds. And in the trio was this beautiful robin that was sitting in the bed of grass. And it just put so many things because it was just like this awesome day I had had, some amazing things I had done. And I'm like, you took this moment to just complain about something, completely erasing those good memories that you just said. And in that moment, it was just recenter as I stopped for the moment and looked at those trio of birds, including that beautiful red robin that seemed to appreciate the grass I was complaining about. So sometimes it's just simple things. It's like you're complaining, but because of that bed of grass right there, which will be taken care of in a second, there's this beautiful moment with these three birds. So it's truly sometimes just the things we're speaking. I'm going, you just had this amazing day, and for whatever reason, just in this second, the grass bothered you so much that it shifted your focus.
And that's an excellent point. One of the things that I make a habit of doing is documenting my wins. At the end of the night before I go to sleep, I don't focus on what went wrong. I only focus on what went well. That's what I write down. Now, when I'm in my day zone and I'm looking at reports and I'm thinking I need to do this or make these changes, I'm doing that in the daytime. But that's not what I'm carrying to bed at night. What I'm carrying to bed at night are two things. I'm documenting everything that I've done well, and I call the last thing my business biggie. What's the biggest thing that I did today to move my business to the next level? And that's what I go to sleep on. So I wake up in that energy. because that's what I'm taking this week.
Actually, what I will do is have us document what you just said and put that on our Facebook page in the show's group. So every night you make it a practice to journal your wins for the day and also note your business biggie, as you call it, of what one big thing is you did for the day to move your business.
To move my business forward. Now, the business biggie, I will tell you, the business biggie is about profit. So it's not, I really finally sent that email that I hadn't sent, in 2 days. It's a business is in business to make money. So in the beginning, when we're starting and we're building, that can be a challenge sometimes. But we're talking about income-producing activities. So the wins could be I sent the email, but the business biggie is the thing that I'm doing to move myself forward in profitability. The last thing I write down is my goal, and once I write the goal down, I sign it. There's something about signing it that just connotes commitment in a strong and powerful way, like you're signing a contract or signing a check. And I'm committing to that goal like every night before I go to sleep.
That's good. So let me ask you this. Is the objective to be fearless or to learn how to appropriately deal with fear? When we talk about taking the fear out of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, fear is your biggest friend. And here's how I recommend dealing with fear. The first thing to do is name it. And I mean, like, give it a name. Personify it. Call it Fred, call it Fran, whatever you want to call it. Personify it. And then sit it down in a chair. Just imagine if it was the person, who would it be? And when it tells you what it wants, ask it. What is it that I'm really afraid of? It'll say, well, you're going to fail. Ask why 5 times. In my book, I talk about asking why 5 times. There's something about drilling down into a fear that helps you uncover what it is that you really believe is possible. So fear is about trying to protect you from moving to the next level because you're in a comfort zone. Instead of looking at the fear and saying, oh, I'm going to feel it and do it anyway, it'll resurface. And you won't resolve it, and you won't really understand what's happening. But if you were to imagine that you sat fear down in a chair, gave it a name, and said, what is it that you're trying to tell me? What is it that I'm afraid of? Ask it why 5 times. Uncover that belief, challenge it, and then put a plan in place to deal with it.
Now, I will say, I've never heard that before, but I like it. Well, I'll say I've never heard it before I read your book. So let me be 100% truthful. I did read the book, so I've heard it in your book. But I'll say, before meeting you, I've never heard anyone say that before. But what is the paradigm shift if we all did that?
Well, see, the thing about fear is that you have to realize that fear is about protecting you. It's about trying to keep you safe. And when you think about the things that you fear, right, people fear what? You're not going to have enough money because you want to make sure you can take care of your kids, you can eat, you can have a roof over your house. That's natural. Somebody comes after you on the street, you run. That's fear. That's natural. It's designed to protect you. That's its original. That's its intent. That's why it's so hardwired. So then when you get ready to step out and do something that's positive and you're feeling all this fear, it's trying to protect you from something. And you can just simply ask that version of you what it's trying to do and, kind of take the air out of that.
Right. That's the part I love there.
Yeah, so, you ask it, why? Why do I think this? Well, I don't want to look like a fool. Okay, well, what will happen if you look like a fool? Well, people will make fun of me. Oh, okay, and then what will that mean? Well, that means I don't think I'm good enough. If you drill that thing down 5 times, you're going to uncover the belief that's there, and then you can deal with the belief. The other thing that does is that puts you in partnership with yourself instead of in conflict with yourself. There's a lot out here that we're dealing with. The last person we need to be in battle with is us.
That is so true. So I want to ask you, how can one identify to the extent in which fear is actually paralyzing them? It can be in their business or just even in life as well.
set goals. If you set goals, if you set a yearly goal, you set a quarterly goal, you set a monthly goal, a weekly goal, and a daily goal. You set daily goals and you're not achieving those daily goals, it's time to have a talk. The very fact that you're not fulfilling the obligations to those daily goals is a sign that the fear is in a place where it's not allowing you to move forward with those goals. If you set them a year out, then you'll give yourself more time. If you set them just quarterly, you'll give yourself more time. But if day to day to day you're setting goals and you end up at the end of that week and you haven't reached them, or at the end of that day and you haven't reached them, if that's happening continually, there's some fear or belief that's there. And that's when it's time to sit down with your friend, fear, and have a small chat. Why haven't I?
Now we understand it's our friend.
Yeah, it's your friend. Actually, I was telling you, name it, personify it. Because then that's the other thing about that is in that personification, it's not this big, hairy, scary monster. It's just an aspect of yourself with the intention to protect you. If you imagine that you're sitting down and you're talking to it, then you can have an objective dialogue with it.
This is true, which actually puts us in the power seat versus the paralyzed seat.
Yes, absolutely.
So I love it. No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's the goal setting, setting the task list, however way you're going to language it. All of those increments that you're doing, that's the easiest way to see if you're being paralyzed. The further out the goals are, if you're not challenging yourself on a more regular basis, then it takes longer to uncover that you're being stopped. And you're wasting time. And
we definitely know as entrepreneurs we have zero time to waste. So, Letitia, I definitely want to thank you for this clarity and just really preparing our minds and hearts to take in the wealth of what our upcoming guests have to share. Because now we're better positioned to learn how we can actually apply that to. But I want you to let us know, how can the listeners contact you and continue this dialogue?
Absolutely. You can visit me at thewheelcoaching.com, ATTHEWHEEL coaching.com, thewheelcoaching.com. I know you'll also put a link in for the users. And if this is something that really has you, you're feeling like, geez, I feel paralyzed, absolutely reach out to me. I offer a 30-minute free discovery call, and it may be something that we can work together on helping you move through. So I look forward to it. And as always, I'm always pleased and honored to be a part of the show.
Oh, we're pleased and honored to have you here. Because definitely, like I said, our guests did an amazing job in previous episodes, just highlighting the mindset. And it's something that we can never talk too much about. And I love the tips you gave tonight. I'm going to post those or have those posted in our group later this evening, because that is, if we're not doing that, the daily goals, having those daily things that we assess right before bed, just puts you in more of a positive mindset. And just imagine waking up in the morning with those thoughts versus negative things or what went wrong the day before, and continuing that type of mindset. Definitely those are good tips for how we actually take the fear out of our business. So we're going to pause for just a quick commercial break, but I invite our listeners to stay tuned, because our next upcoming guest you do not want to miss. We will be back momentarily. Please stay tuned.
The reason that people don't want to deal with what's holding them back is because it does not feel good to look back. So the easier thing to do is to live in what I call your condition zone. It's not a comfort zone because it doesn't make you comfortable. You're just familiar with it.
Letitia Bates, Certified Life Coach.
So I'm always working with my clients to meet them at their needs. I am listening to where they are. I do have to help them move to that next level, but we're going to go slow, and what they can expect from me is kindness, respect, and compassion.
Go to atthewheelcoaching.com nationally-syndicated.com and start driving your life back to higher ground.
What I help you do is understand anything that you've gone through, you've already survived. That's why you're here. And we can work together to deal with those uneasy feelings and help you move forward.
Go now to atthewheelcoaching.com.
Have a great book idea, but clueless as to where to start? Or perhaps you published a book before and your sales were disastrous. Exactly why are you sitting on your vision as well as your wealth? Hi, this is Alicia Brown, the CEO of Fruition Publishing Concierge Services. We're a full publishing firm where our mission is to help you publish your amazing book idea and deliver your message to the masses. So visit us at fruitionpublishing.com to find out how you can connect with us and be our next best-selling author.
And welcome back to the Entrepreneurs Lounge radio show. I am your host, Alicia Brown, the Joy Guru. And I'm so honored to introduce to you our next guest, Dr. D. Anthony Miles. Dr. Miles is a nationally known startup and marketing expert. He has been featured in nationally syndicated media outlets such as ABC News, Fox News, NBC News, and Forbes, along with a host of various media circuits. He was also invited to Harvard University to speak and has spoken around the country and most notably at Stanford University. He's also the CEO and founder of Miles Development Industries Corporation, a consulting practice and venture capital firm. And we're just honored tonight to have his wealth of experience and really be able to find out some of the strategies and techniques so we can take the fear out of entrepreneurship. Please help me welcome to the Entrepreneurs Lounge radio show, Dr. D. Anthony Miles. And Dr. Miles, how are you doing this evening?
Hi, Alicia. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you wonderfully.
Okay. Oh, you can call me D. You don't have to be so formal.
Okay, good. I'll call you D. I want to honor all those years of hard work and everything you've been through. So I always will use the doctor and the official titles, but now that I have permission, I'll call you D.
No problem. Thank you. Doesn't mean nothing if I don't go back and help people, you know, the doctorate and all that. It doesn't mean anything if I don't go back and help somebody be better than what they were. So
true. And, you know, that's the part of entrepreneurship that sometimes we forget, but it's so true. How are we helping and making a difference beyond just what we do in our business? But, you know,
yes,
you're
indeed.
one that your bio and your business track record are impressive. And I was looking at the information. I said we could have an entire show just talking about that. But what I want to do is take you back to your childhood and ask, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, when I originally was a kid, I wanted to be a musician. And I ended up being a musician. Yeah, I ended up being a musician later when I got to my teens and 20s. And then the second thing is I was also an athlete. I wanted to be a professional athlete. My dad played basketball. My dad got a contract, got recruited by the Boston Celtics and the Philadelphia 76ers. And my grandfather was a professional baseball player, and he just got recently inducted into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. He played the Negro Baseball Leagues, and he got invited to Obama's first inauguration, and it was such an honor to see my grandfather finally, reach his accolades before he passed away. But he's the true, I guess, the true celebrity in the family, and so that's pretty good to me. Yes, my grandfather, he not only was he played pro baseball, he was also a mechanic with the Tuskegee Airmen, the famed Tuskegee Airmen. So my grandfather made sure that all his sons went to college. and he didn't want to hear any excuses. So that's my family, and I'm a byproduct of my family. My dad actually made me go to college, and let me tell you an interesting story, Alicia. While I was in school, I had a counselor that told me I wasn't college material, so I never wanted to go to college. I just didn't think I was smart enough. My dad actually made me go to college. And when I tell that story, I revisit that with my children. There's always somebody in school. We call them the discouragement fraternity. They always try to tell your children what they can't do or whatever. And you have to understand that school is only a small part of your life. And you can't judge a kid's potential based on grades. Grade is not an indicator of intelligence. Grades just says how well you performed in the class or how well you did on the test. So had I not had my father tell me that, no, you're going to go to college, you're going to figure this out, I wouldn't have my doctorate, you know. So, you know, absolutely, yes, absolutely. And I had a good support system. My uncle graduated from UCLA. And, you know, when you have mentors like that in your family, or even if it's not within your family, outside your family, that shapes how you think, and that shapes your confidence in what you do in life. And all you need is somebody to tell you can, and that does wonders for you.
Yes. And if you heard from the beginning of the show, we actually have our mindset coach, Letitia Bates, who one of the books she wrote is I Can. So it's a phenomenal book.
Yes, indeed.
I don't care what age you are. But how did you go from wanting to be a musician? How did you go from that to this? I mean, everything from, well, I did mention to them, you are a statistician. There's just so many different things that you do that are so far from musician and professional athlete.
Yes, we gave the cliff notes. We were supposed to get a record deal with the band I was with, and I actually was playing in a heavy metal rock and roll band. My hair used to be to my shoulders. I was an accomplished guitarist. And we didn't get a record deal. We was gonna be the next Prince, Rick James, whatever. I hope my former band members, did not put any of our clips on YouTube. I recently showed my daughters a tape of us playing at a gig, and I had converted to DVD. They were on the floor laughing. That hurt my feelings.
well, in all fairness, they're your kids. So whatever Dad does is going to be funny. It's not going to be cool.
Right. Your kids don't see you. They see you as your parent, but they don't see you how you were when you're younger. And to them, that's funny to see you that way. And my hair was long.
Exactly.
I used to get my due did. I used to get my hair taken care of. I mean, had to be fly. When you're on stage, you got looked the part. And we didn't get the record deal. We were trying to get a record deal with one of the major recording companies, record companies. It just didn't happen, and that's when life happens. So dream deferred.
Exactly. Wow.
Yes.
So how did you, I imagine in all of that, in the transitions and things like that, there were some fears that you had along the way. How did you get over those fears and keep moving forward?
That's a great question, Alicia. One of the things about fear is when you're young, you think you have your life in front of you, and how you think your life, how you thought it was going to be and how it turned out was two different things. I never wanted to have children. I thought I was going to get a record deal. We was going to be touring, and then life happened. So one of the fears that I had was being a failure. That's what drove me to be somewhat overzealous and reaching whatever goals I wanted to reach because, you know, my dad had 2 or 3 master's degrees, and he's like, well, you got to do what I did. That was a lot of pressure on me because, you know, I didn't necessarily want to go into the field of study that he did, but my father said, I've given you the template. You have to follow it. And most of the times when your parents are educated, the kids end up being educated. And, you know, I think my father said is if I got a master's degree, that means you're supposed to get a doctorate. And I was like, wow, that's a lot to put on you, you know. And so my fear growing up was fear of failure. And one of the things that helped me overcome fear is this, and I don't know if you've ever heard this before, I'm a voracious reader. I read about 2 or 3 books every month. And I picked this up, you know, I picked this up reading the autobiography of Malcolm X because he educated himself in prison reading books. I said, I don't have to go to prison to want to read. Why don't I just do that? And anything that I don't know or I have a fear of or a lack of knowledge on, I pick up a book and read it, and I overcome that fear. And that has always worked for me. And a lot of times, especially when I do media interviews, I actually talk about my experiences, and I really relate my experiences from books that I read. And the books that I read shaped my mind and my thinking, and it's prepared me for life. And I love to read biographies, and one of the biographies I read was about Steve Jobs, how he created Apple and all of the misfortunes that he had. And what I came away from reading the book is he's no better than me. He's just like me. He puts on his pants 2 legs at a time or 1 leg at a time. And why don't I go find a pond to fish in that has a lot of fish and everybody's not fishing in it, and why don't I pursue that? And that's what got me interested in, you know, wanting to go into entrepreneurship. And one of the things is, you know, one of the lessons here is when you read about somebody's life, you don't always just read about the successes, always read about the failures and how what some of the things that they had to make a sacrifice to do, because behind every success, there's about 5 or 6 failures. And failure is a part of success. If you haven't failed, you haven't tried. And if you're afraid to fail, you can't be an entrepreneur. You can't be successful in anything. And I failed probably as many times as I've been successful, but what's the saying? What did you learn from that? Every lesson, there's a lot of lessons in failure. Success is, what is that saying? Success has many fathers, but failure is an orphan. So you want to always take a look at your loss column and always look and see why you failed and learn from it. And when you become successful, that's an accumulation of experiences and some of the failures that you racked up in your life and career. And if you haven't failed, you haven't tried.
I love it. Absolutely the truth in everything you said. Now,
Yes,
I did mention, so I'm warning the listening audience that you are a professional researcher and statistician. So I assume that you excel at looking at things from an analytical perspective. So when we talk about taking this, see, exactly. So I warned them so they'll know. But when we talk about taking the fear out of your business, I know in your best-selling book, Risk Factors and Business Models, your quote is saying that there are 5 forces of entrepreneurial risk and causes of business failure. What are those?
Sure. You want me to name them first, define them, or you want me to define them each one at a time?
I would say just name them first.
Sure. Okay. There's 5 basic risks that businesses deal with. And one is called personal characteristics. The second is called intangible operations risk. The third one is called enterprise operations risk. The fourth one is called market climate risk. And business environment risk is the last one. I based these on, I did a study on 500 plus small businesses when I was working on my doctoral work. And I was curious about, what drove me to do this study was I was curious about why do businesses fail, and can you look at some predictors of that will prevent failure? Because there's a lot of literature out there about the risk behavior of entrepreneurs, but there was virtually, when I was doing my research, I tried to find books on entrepreneurial risk, and they barely mentioned it in economics books and most entrepreneur books. And entrepreneurial risk is a part of entrepreneurship. The term entrepreneurship is actually a derivative of economics, and economics, entrepreneurship means risk. You're assuming a risk of taking on a business enterprise and trying to start a business. So those are the 5 risk patterns that I saw with most of the 500 businesses plus businesses that I looked at when I was doing my research.
Now, do you believe that those five forces are so predictable that if entrepreneurs address those five, they can eliminate business failure and guarantee their business success?
I would say this. I would say they would minimize failure and they would probably maximize success. That's a better way to answer that.
I like it. So from what you studied, these are five key areas that entrepreneurs, regardless of what level of business they're in, need to address and focus on.
Absolutely. You probably wonder how I came to this topic, right? I was at a conference in Tucson, Arizona, and I actually did this as a research project when I was presenting at an entrepreneurship. I had won a fellowship, and I was presenting on a topic. And when I was presenting this topic, I had a professor come up to me. He says, you need to do something with this. This is beyond a traditional business plan, that you actually had some risk indicators. You need to do something with this. I was actually going to do my doctoral work on why black businesses fail, and I got some advice on expanding from just black business to business in general, and that's how I came up with this topic, and that was became the basis of my book based on my doctoral work. And it's been quite I've been blessed with the response that I've gotten back, in terms of my book. My book has been required reading in the MBA programs and entrepreneurship. Awesome. A couple of my books has been adopted as a standard textbook, a supplementary text in some business programs around the country, and that was really really a blessing. Absolutely.
Yes, and it's funny that you said that, because one of the questions that came in from one of the listeners to ask you is, do more African Americans need to enter the research field due to the shortage of minorities in that field? And what would you recommend is the best way to do so?
Well, what I would do is I would reframe that question based on some of the research that I've done. Why don't we reframe the question like this? What would be an industry that we can enter, that's underserved with less competition, and we can dominate? It doesn't have to necessarily be research. It could be any industry. So the thing about this is you want to look for paradigm shifts. And paradigm shifts are gaps when they have trends that end and trends that begin. So as African Americans, and I want to say this, and I want your audience to hear me clearly on this, entrepreneurship is in our heritage and it's in our culture. You know why, Alicia? Because everything that we've been locked out, we had to go and start our own business, okay? From fraternities to masonry organizations or whatever, to starting businesses in our black neighborhoods. So entrepreneurship is a part of our culture, and the only thing is we don't embrace it because we have fear. So to answer the question is, you want to look at it like this. You want to look at it like this. To go into any industry, whether it's research or whether it's any other industry, you want to look at it like this. You always want to fish in a pond with the less fishermen in it, put it like that. You want to go into industries that are less competition, high probability of success, and high probability of creating wealth, okay? That's how the DuPonts did it. That's how the Vanderbilts did it. They didn't go into industries that were saturated with a lot of competition. They went into industries that were underserved. The key thing about entrepreneurship is this, Alicia. You have to ask yourself, if you're starting a business or entering an industry, what problem are you solving? That's the whole basis of starting a business of anything. What problem are you solving for the customer? Okay? If you see people with grass that needs to be cut in a new subdivision, that's a problem that you can solve. You will pick up new clients if you're the first one there. They got something called first base of entrepreneurship, second base, and third base. So when you go into a new industry, you want to look for the first base, whether it's research or whatever. And African Americans always have to have this attitude like this. You have your mind's eye. You have to have the ability to see the unseen. And to see the unseen is the ability to see opportunities before everybody else does. So when you see opportunities before everybody else does, you will maximize your potential and your success and profitability by looking at things before everybody else sees them. So to answer your question, yes, you want to look at underserved industries and sectors, and you want to position yourself to meet the needs of those underserved sectors, and that's how you create new millionaires, new billionaires.
This is so true. And in your research, another question that came up is, are female-owned business ventures riskier than male-owned business ventures?
You're really going to like what I'm going to tell you. I found out when I actually wrote a journal article on this, and I actually did research on, as an extension of my research, I wanted to see if gender was a defining characteristic between risk, between business ventures. And guess what I found out? There are no differences in terms of risk based on gender. Women can be just as successful, and their businesses can be less risky, if not more risky, than male business-owned ventures. Women have the advantage or the opportunity to be just as successful as male-owned businesses if they can minimize their risk. So risk wasn't a strong indicator based on gender.
Now, see, to me, I knew that, but, just for the edification of those that are listening. I might be biased as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now,
women can be just successful. Yes.
Exactly. And I also want to ask you about something you were quoted as saying, that all businesses are guilty until proven innocent. What did you mean by that?
Well, what I meant by that, Alicia, was when you use that term, all businesses are guilty until proven innocent, that means that all businesses are subject to market forces, are subject to social Darwinism, which is a survival of the fittest. And you don't know if your business venture is legit until you test it in the marketplace, and the marketplace is a great indicator of how a business will be successful. So when you say all businesses are guilty until proven innocent, the innocence means the success of the business. So just because you have this great idea and you want to start a business and you test it out in the marketplace and it's not successful, well, that shows that business was guilty. So that's what the term means. All businesses are guilty until proven innocent. You have to prove the vitality or viability of the business in the marketplace, and the marketplace will determine whether the business is innocent or guilty, successful or failure.
And what would you say would be one of the number one recommendations you have for how you can take the fear out of entrepreneurship?
The way I recommend to take the fear out of entrepreneurship is know your industry, know who the main competitors are, know who the new people coming in the industry, know where the industry is in terms of the life cycle. Is it a declining industry? Is it a new industry? Is it an emerging industry? And also, last but not least, to take the fear out of it is position your business to reap many of the benefits of that industry. Like, you may not want to go in the same industry that deals with, Uber or, say, Lyft, but you found a complementary industry that will help you, that you can build your business from Uber or Lyft that will help you make money. Case in point, was that Grubhub, that place that took the same idea that they have for Uber and started a business delivering food to people? Well, absolutely. So what you want to do is be creative, and you want to make sure that you try to use industries, make yourself complementary to those industries so you can make money. And you don't have to do what they do. You can have a complementary business where the Ubers or the Walmarts or the Lyfts or the Apples can slide business over to you, and that's how you make money. Because there's a lot of businesses that are independent on each other and interdependent on each other, and that's what you want to do, and that takes the fear out of business, because when you're interdependent on those businesses, you have less competition, and you can maximize your profitability and also maximize your sales. So that's what you want to do. That's how you take the fear out of entrepreneurship. Know your industry better than anybody else, know who the players are, and look at the industry and look at it as a marketplace for you to try to make money and find out where you fit in. That's how you take the fear out of running a business or starting a business.
It's so funny that you say that, because one of our previous show guests, Janae Sasso, actually owns a business called Senior Runs. And short and sweet, that business is devoted to almost being like the Uber for actual seniors. And she actually worked for one of those. She actually worked for, I want to say it's Uber or Lyft, for at least a year to two to learn their paradigm, learn their strategies and what they did. That was great research for what she does as a business, but she does it with a twist. Because while she helps transport seniors, they actually stay there with them on their appointment. They do some light errands. They have that concierge feel to them, versus, something where I just pick you up. Exactly. So you were saying that, I'm like, wow, that's just perfect for the last show guest who that's pretty much she did. And she's very much into the research part of it. Short and simple.
Absolutely.
What's the research saying? What's this? What's the opportunity? So, yes.
See, she opened up her third eye. She saw an opportunity before anybody else saw it, and that's what you want to develop is your third eye, your mind's eye, the ability to see opportunities before the mere mortals see them. And those are the people who are the Bill Gates, who are the Warren Buffetts. They had a third eye, and they saw things before anybody else did, and they seized the opportunity, which is the first base of entrepreneurship. So that's wonderful. I love hearing stories like that.
Absolutely. So, again, such rich information you're giving. You're right on point. On our Facebook page and in our Facebook radio show group, we have put the link to the book that we're talking about. So those of you listening, you'll be able to click right on there and know how to purchase the Risk Factor book and business models. But one of the things I wanted to do is absolutely, because we don't want to talk about all this great research, but then people are like, well, where is it? How do I get what? What do I do what?
Right.
What are some of the – exactly. I wanted to ask you, what are some of the things that we heard about a small part of everything that you do, but what are some of the things that you offer to entrepreneurs and business owners as far as services and different things?
Well, I have an interesting client base, Alicia. I deal with people who are lottery winners, and I deal with people who are, say, professional athletes or high net worth people. And I deal with the same problems that I deal with people on a lower level. I had clients that were getting type of advice from people they should be getting it from. And I always tell my clients, I say, you don't do any business venture unless you have me look at it. And I'm going to protect you. And I say, listen, I'm not the killer of dreams. I'm the person that's going to help you make money and keep your money without you throwing away money. And I've had clients that, you're going to love this one. I had clients that were approached by people. This guy had a business where you could put, I think, to spread the stuff on a sandwich and then put it on the side of the house as protected for the weather.
Okay.
I was like, really? Had clients to me about a business where you put this pill in your gas tank. It'll supposedly extend your mileage. You can get 200 miles to the gallon. I mean, I've seen it all. And my goal when I deal with clients and how I help entrepreneurs is I look at the business model, or I look at the market forces, and I actually employ some of the things in my book, and I give them a risk assessment. I say I wouldn't do this business risk because I'm not confident about these things. I don't like the management structure. I don't like the business model. I think it's a new industry that is a risky industry. And a lot of those industries are fly-by-night. They have no sustainability. And that's what I do with my clients. Most interesting clients tend to be athletes. They have people in their family that try to be more of an influence on them. Like dad wants you to lend him money to start a Coca-Cola startup. And he wants to compete with Coca-Cola. And I'm saying, listen, that dog is not going to hunt. And I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm the sane person. Like I always pitched it to my clients like this. If it wasn't your dad or your relative, would you go into a business like that if you didn't have a personal relationship with them? And most of the time the answer is no. I said, then why would you want to do that? I said, I'm trying to help you keep your money and help you not blow your money because eventually your playing days are going to be over, and you're going to have to watch every penny that you make because you're not making a salary that you're making in the league when you're an active player. So we want to be prudent in what we look at business opportunities. I always tell them, you don't sign any contracts. You don't do any business ventures unless I look at it first. And I try to protect my clients from some of these crazy businesses out here like the two that I mentioned to you. And this is like every day occurrence. Every day occurrence.
Oh, wow. The same stuff you put on the wall to the side of a building for adhesive on a sandwich. I don't understand why anybody would want to buy that, but okay.
Lisa, you'd be surprised at some of the garbage I run into.
Wow. Okay, so we're definitely going to put up the link to your website.
Yes.
Because just in case someone is being approached with those ideas, they really need to talk to you. Get you to run through it a little bit. Yeah, that's that good. So how can our listeners actually contact you?
Sure. You can either go to my website, which I think you're going to provide the link, or I can give you my business email. It's dmiles@mdicorpventures.com. And that's my business email direct, and I answer it. And I would definitely be glad to, if they want to run something by me, give them my honest opinion. Absolutely.
Oh, awesome. So, I will post both the email address and the website on our show page. For those of you who are listening, it's the Entrepreneurs Lounge radio show. That's on Facebook. We also have the Friends of the Show group as well. So we'll post those things and share them also later on our Instagram page as well. But I can call you D now instead of Dr. Miles. We just really thank you for all of this information you shared. Very interesting things we learned about you. Absolutely.
Oh,
and definitely, listeners, you want to read the book. Oh, it's our pleasure. Especially, you made the statistical research part not boring, which a lot of people have a hard time doing.
Well, I try to make it user-friendly. I think once you get past the beta coefficients and all that stuff and you see it for what it is, that'll make sense to you. But I try to simplify things and make it more complex. That's what I try to do.
Thank you. Because life needs to be more simple sometimes versus complex. So to our listeners, you definitely want to visit the page. You definitely want to visit his website. And he gave you the invitation. So we'll have an email address there. If you want to run something by him, if you want to consult with him, you'll know exactly how to connect with him and contact him, as well as where to get your copy of the book. So, B, we thank you so much, and I hope you have an amazing night.
Alicia, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much, and hopefully I do a very good service to your listeners. Hopefully I'll make them become millionaire entrepreneurs.
Okay, that's always great. So we'll have to have him back, guys, so we can check your status of millionaire, and if not, then we can continue to get information from him. Have an amazing night. Yes,
Thank
awesome.
You, Alicia. You too as well.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you. And certainly, last but not least, as we discussed in previous episodes, life happens. And we have an amazing guest, Dwayne DeVille, who was diagnosed with kidney cancer, which actually turned to be a major wake-up call for him. He didn't want to continue on with his day-to-day business as he knew it, but he wanted to incorporate his life, the passion he had for riding motorcycles, actually into his business. So his CEO workshop on wheels, the CEO Ride, was born, and now he is a business coach that advises other CEOs on how their entrepreneurial journey can be fulfilling, whether they're just starting out on the road, trying to find work-life balance, or they're preparing to pass on the baton. So at this time, I want you to welcome to the show Dwayne DeVille. And welcome to the Entrepreneurs Lounge radio show. How are you doing tonight?
Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. You know, this would be the first biker that we ever had on the show.
Well, hopefully it won't be the last. We're out there and we're pretty good people.
Yes, you are. You know, it's in my secret fantasy imagination that I drive a Harley. But when you actually get me near a motorcycle, it's not going to happen. That's my fear.
Well,
it has nothing to do with entrepreneurship.
I hear you. I didn't have much choice. My dad wouldn't let me drive his car, so he bought one for me at the age of 16. So I've been riding a motorcycle ever since.
Oh wow!
It's sort of in my blood.
Well, that's a nice way to get. That's a nice way to get started and get introduced. But what I wanted to do is for you to tell our listeners what your life was like as a business owner before being diagnosed with kidney cancer.
It wasn't that different because I was very fortunate that 25 years ago I found my path. And the great Joseph Campbell once wrote that the key to life is identifying your path and walking it. And I was walking my path, and that path is navigating companies or coaching, and you could say coaching, strategizing, and what have you. And so it was going okay, but it wasn't. The one thing that it wasn't was as focused as it should be. I was still out and about doing this or doing that because it sounded interesting, it looked interesting, and like most entrepreneurs, I failed to put myself first. Most entrepreneurs find themselves after a few years working for the business rather than having the business work for them, and that's where I was beforehand. And once the cancer hit, it just sort of pulled everything into crystal clear focus.
So previously, what you have said, you were successful before the diagnosis.
Yes. Oh, without a doubt. But we all have to define success because success is an individual thing. Some people define success by the size of their bank accounts. Others define success with the circle of friends they have. I define success by the types of people that I deal with, being able to have pride in not only what I do for them, but what they do as well. That when I say I work with this organization, I can say so with pride because they're doing it the right way. And so from that standpoint, I was learning every day. I was experiencing incredible opportunities within the business world to see things up close and personal. To really, I would walk out of meetings sometimes and just tell myself, geez, I read about this in a book, and now I just lived through it for the past 2 hours. So you would have all of those wonderful moments where you realized you were doing what you were supposed to be doing, and it was good stuff that was helping people. So that's what success has always meant to me.
Absolutely, and you're right. As an entrepreneur, that is a wonderful moment when it's from something that it goes from something you read to something that you're actually doing as the business owner.
Right.
But how did the diagnosis change you? How did it? What were your initial thoughts as far as the business was concerned?
Well, when it hit, I didn't really consider the business as much as I used a business approach to it. In business, you run to a problem, you don't run away from a problem. And I remember when sitting in front of the doctor and he dropped the C word on me for the first time and he said the word cancer, everything went quiet. He was still talking, but I couldn't hear him anymore because I went through this initial denial phase saying, I can't possibly have cancer. And then another little voice said, but somebody has to have it, so why can't it be you? And then finally it locked in and it said, wait a minute, here's a man that can probably save your life that you need to listen to. So I went into business mode. Emotions just went away, and I just started listening, and I engaged in I guess what you could call a business conversation, except this was the business of saving my life. And so I just approached it that way, and I approached it from a business standpoint. Who are the best? What information do I need to know? It's sort of like what your previous guest said. What are the risk factors in this thing? How do you identify this? and how do you handle it? So from that standpoint, my day-to-day business sort of went to the side, but all of the lessons learned in business, all of the way that I approach business, all of that really came to the forefront to help me crystallize exactly how to get through that time and get through it successfully.
So it's amazing to hear how you just applied the principles and the things that you would apply to your business, use that approach from this diagnosis.
Right. Much like in business when, I don't like the word failure, but much like in business when things don't work out. If you're sitting there and you're going, oh, woe is me, why did this happen to me, what went wrong, and you're just sort of crying in your Wheaties, that doesn't do you any good. So when a health situation hits, it's pretty much the same principle. Sitting back and going, oh, woe is me, does you absolutely no good. So as best you can, park those negative emotions off to the side. And because if you're really focusing on solving a business problem or solving a health problem, and you park those negative emotions off to the side, you allow the positive emotions to come into play, which is where you're looking for a solution, you're looking for the right thing, you're going to take the right steps, and so that engages you in the process, which is very, very important. So
true. So what would you say was your aha moment?
The aha moment had nothing to do with cancer. Actually, the aha moment was after 9/11 when that occurred and crushed my company and left me with virtually nothing. And I then began to apply my business perspective to things. And I sat down at a friend's boat dock one afternoon, and I listed out, because my company was essentially dead. So I'm listing out all of the things I know how to make money, all of the things I'm good at. And I made that complete list. Then I broke it up into a T account. And on the left side, I listed all of the things I was passionate about doing. On the right side, I took those things that I was just, I can do that, but I really don't want to. And once I identified the 4 or 5 things that I was most passionate about doing, I realized that it was already in my company, and it was already what I was doing. All I had to do was get through this tough time. All I had to do was just sit back and go, okay, yes, the entire country is in a pause right now. Everything's in a timeout, but that will pass. So what I've got to be is prepared for that moment when business re-engages and I can get back on my feet. And that's essentially what I did. So the aha moment was where I came to understand that in my darkest time, I was really still on my path. I just happened to hit a dark patch. And if I kept walking, I would get through it.
Absolutely. So it really sounds like the same methodology that our mindset coach, Letitia Bates, said at the beginning of the show, as well as Dr. D shared. It goes back to your mindset, how you're thinking. Like you said, if you want to just cry over your Wheaties, it does absolutely no good as far as you being able to progress and move forward.
Right. I went to school at night with the attitude that I was going to live this night anyway, so I might as well learn something while living it. And she talked about the daily goals, right? Well, that's really your to-do list, because if you're smart, what you've done is you've identified your vision. I live in a 5-year life plan. Every year on my birthday, I project out 5 years, a rolling life plan as to where I want to be in life. And once I identify that, I then back up and I say, okay, well, if that's what I want to do, then what do I need to do this coming year to ensure that 5 years from today I'll be where I want to be? Once I identify what I need to do this year, I then break that down and I say, okay, now, what do I need to do so that I always have my eye on the prize? I've always got one eye looking 5 years down the road, but yet I'm doing it in the moment. I know that I'm doing the right things in the moment that's going to get me to where I want to go. So those daily goals, I just have to second that. They're so important.
Awesome. And one of your blogs I read on your website, you said that there are no failures in business, just expensive tuition for lessons learned. Share a little bit more with us about that.
Well, it is. When you think about it, you go to college and what do you pay? You pay tuition. You pay tuition so that you can sit in the classroom or take an online course and learn something, have somebody teach you something. Well, when you get into the business world, where do you get those lessons? You get those lessons through trial and error. And my favorite saying in business is that it was a good idea at the time. So when you make a decision to do something, and if you've done what your previous guest has told you to do, get as much information as possible. Look at everything that's there. Gather all that you can so that you can make the best decision possible. But once you make that decision, things go into motion. Energies start to occur. The information that you have is now being added to. New information is coming in, whether it's working, it's not working. And so the end result to that is going to be in business. It's going to be something that's going to cost you something financially. It's either going to make you money if you made the right decision, or it's going to cost you money if the decision is sort of incorrect. So it's not a failure. No decision is 100% wrong. The problem is that it is 80% right, but the 20% that you missed is killing you. So focus on the 20% and fix that. And just do that, and then keep going. Yes, because that's how you do things. It's like climbing a mountain, right? I mean, you get to a certain point, and it gets more difficult, but you just got to figure out a different way around the mountain. You don't necessarily want to go backwards, or go and climb a different mountain. This is the mountain you're on.
So true. And of course, to our listeners. No, go ahead.
No, that's why I said I don't believe in failure. I really don't believe that anything I've ever done has been a failure, because I've always learned something from it.
And that's true. That is so true. And what I was going to tell our listeners, I don't plan it this way. Honest to God, I don't. I know I'm a publisher. I know I'm a writing coach. I do not plan it this way. But, yes, Mr. DeVille is also an author. So I hope you guys are seeing the connection to business and successful people and books they've written. But you wrote a book, The Biker's Guide to Business, When Business and Life Meet at the Crossroads. Could you share with our listeners about that book?
Sure. The idea for the book came about. I was working with my coach shortly after my cancer. And she asked the question. She said, "How are you doing?" And I said, "Well, physically I'm good, but mentally I'm completely messed up because the credits on this movie called My Life hadn't started running yet, but I now knew they could run at any time, and I wanted to make the rest of my life count. And I was trying to figure out what that looked like. And so as we were talking, she said, "Well, what are you most passionate about doing?" And I said, "Well, what's really crazy is I want to figure out how to combine my business, my navigation business, working with entrepreneurs, with motorcycling." And she said, "Well, you do this workshop for entrepreneurs. Why don't you just do it for those who ride motorcycles and call it a workshop on wheels?" And I started laughing, and I said, "No, I'll call it The Biker's Guide to Business." And then once I did that, I bought the URL from GoDaddy that night. Then I started talking to people. Met someone who said that, well, if you're going to do it and do it successfully, you have to write a book so that people will know who you are. And a number of my clients told me I needed to write a book anyway because of all of the things that I've witnessed and I've helped to help people go through in business. So I did. I started that process. I was lucky enough to meet someone who introduced me to Mark Victor Hansen. He's the gentleman who wrote all of the Chicken Soup books, Chicken Soup for the Soul. And,
yes.
And through that introduction, I met his agent. And she heard my story and said, well, I remember we're sitting down talking, and she looked at me, and her exact words were, "What the hell does motorcycling have to do with business?" And I said, "I really don't know right now. I'm still figuring that out." But I said there are 200,000 six-figure-a-year senior executives buying motorcycles every year. So if they've been doing that for a while, that's a pretty big market. And so she recognized that, and a few weeks later, she signed me up. Then we went through the process of writing a book. It was published. The greatest thing about a book is that it opens doors for you. So for your listeners out there who are trying to figure out whether it's worth their while to write a book, it absolutely is. It was a year-plus process for me to do this. My local Panera Bakery saw me there every morning at 6:30 when they opened up, and I walked out at 8 o'clock writing. 8 o'clock in the morning writing for 2.5 hours. And so that book opened doors, and it introduced me to the CEO or the president of Inc. magazine, who was a cancer survivor. So I handed it to him as, a book from one cancer survivor to another. And he looked down at it and he said, "The Biker's Guide to Business, I ride a Harley." And I went, "No joke, we've got to talk." And we did. He loved the idea for the motorcycle rides. We started doing them the day before the Inc. conferences. And that's how the CEO ride was launched, was through that. But it started off with the book. And the book was it's something that people will always refer to you as a published author. So that's kind of a cool sidelight. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think most people can give you some type of testimony where that book has truly changed, just different things for them. I know for myself, it created a business that I never thought I wanted. Mm-hmm. I couldn't see myself today doing anything different. So I am in full agreement that when you yield yourself to doing that, it just takes on a life of its own and can just open doors that are incredible. But one thing I also wanted to ask you is, what are 3 things that you would tell our listeners to help them grab the handlebars of their business?
First of all, you have to be clear on who you are. And I mean who you are as a person, what you like, what you don't like, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. And you can only do that by virtue of experimentation. If you've worked for a bank all your life and you say, well, gee, I just need to go and do something else, you've not experimented. So the chances are when you jump into that new venture, you're probably not going to do very well. So just put yourself in positions to where you test yourself. You really get to know who you are, feel your face in the dirt sometimes, and also feel your face in the wind when things are going really great. But really understand who you are. So that's number 1. Number 2, I'm not as clinical when it comes to figuring out what kind of business I want to go into. The entrepreneurs that I work with, you have to love your business. You really have to love aspects of your business. And I believe that there are people out there that love doing anything. There are things that I probably would not want to do, like accounting. I couldn't possibly handle numbers all day long. But there are people out there who absolutely love that. And so you respect that. So if it's what you love to do, embrace it. Just absolutely embrace it. If it's not something you want to do, you're not going to do it very long. You're not going to do it consistently, and you're not going to be good at it. So love what you do, yes. And then figure out where you want the business to go. And what I mean by that is when I'm sitting down with a potential client, they're telling me everything that's wrong with their business. About 30 minutes into the conversation, I say, I need you to answer a question for me before we go any farther, and I'm going to come back next week for the answer, by the way. But the question that I have for you is, it's 5 years from today, everything's worked. Everything's gone according to plan, every obstacle overcome. Tell me what your life looks like. And they look at me and they say, well, no, you're not here to talk about my life. You're here to talk about my business. And I said, no, I'm really good at what I do, and I can take your business anywhere. But if I don't have it match up to where you want to be in life, we will both have failed. So we will not get there. So I need to know that. Once they identify that, then the theme of my book comes into play, because the real theme behind The Biker's Guide to Business is breaking things down, right? So if you know where you want to go, and I sort of alluded to that earlier. And the example that I like to use is if I'm going to ride my motorcycle from Florida to San Diego, California, that's 2,500 miles. When I wake up tomorrow, the only thing I'm worried about is getting to New Orleans successfully. I get to New Orleans successfully, the next day I wake up and I worry about getting through Texas successfully, so on and so forth. So then in 4 or 5 days, I end up in San Diego, California successfully. Same thing in business. You throw out there where you really want to be 5 years from now, and I have an outline that I use with these entrepreneurs that helps them to really define truly where they want to go. And once that's done, then we can rock their business and take it where it needs to go to give them the type of life that they want. Because what we're doing in business while we're on this earth is to figure out our path and our happiness along the way. Now, that's not to say you're not going to have challenges. It's not to say that you're not going to feel pain. But when you're on your path, it's all going to happen for the right reasons. So when we started this conversation, you talked about my cancer. That may be the best thing that ever happened to me, because it truly taught me where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do, who I wanted to be in this world. And once I defined that, I began to do that. And things have just started working out ever since.
Wow. And, I love that. Our debut show guest, Charlita Harvey, wonderful entrepreneur, had a similar experience, a life-altering. She survived cancer and a year later survived a brain aneurysm. And she talked about how it changed. Oh, yeah. She talked about how it changed her life in general, but also the positive effect it had for her as a business owner. So I love it when I hear people, of course, no one wants to deal with cancer or have adverse things in their life, but when you can say what you just said and then actually repurpose this in a different way, it's a wonderful testimony to hear. So for those listeners that are going through certain things and certain obstacles and challenges, just hearing that there's hope on the other side of this, and there is another person that's a shining example of how you can move past. Before we close tonight's show, I want to ask you, with everything you've shared and everything you've been through, what is the legacy that you strive to leave today?
A legacy of connectivity. To connect to people, to connect others to other people. My CEO ride, yes, it's about business. It's about getting a group of entrepreneurs together to talk about business in a very safe environment where they can lay out their fears and they can talk about the challenges that they're having. But truly, it's really about connecting them into to use Seth Godin's term, a tribe, a group that they can trust, a group of people where they feel most comfortable. And so the one thing that has gotten me to where I am today is my ability to connect people and to connect with people. And that is probably the most important thing for me, because it's what brings me joy and sort of a tad of fulfillment.
Wow. I like that, connectivity. I think in today's society, it's just something we don't do enough, and maybe sometimes we actually take for granted. So that's one heck of a legacy to think about leaving.
Well, the thing about leaving a legacy is that you don't think about it. You just do. You be who you are.
Okay.
And if you're really good at it, you will leave a legacy. But if you start off thinking about leaving a legacy, you'll never quite get there.
Oh, good point. Great point. So, Dwayne, how would our listeners actually get in contact with you and sort of remind them some of the services that you offer?
Well, you can find probably the easiest thing to do is just to go to my website, theceoride.com. So it's theceoride.com. It's all one word, and you'll have my contact information there. I've also got pages on Facebook, LinkedIn. Love to connect with people on LinkedIn. Love to answer questions. My blogs are out there. So there's many ways to find me. And it helps that you spelled my name correctly, which is lovely. My mother did me no favors by spelling Dwayne that way. And so they'll be able to just Google me and find me that way, because I think I'm the only Dwayne DeVille around. So it makes it pretty easy.
It does make you stand out. So, she did a good job.
Yes. Yes, she did.
She did a good job.
She did. In more ways than
one. Of course, we're going to – exactly. Now, we've already posted the Bite book, and we shared that. But we'll also post a link to your actual website so that our listeners will know exactly where they can find you and all the information that you actually offer for our business owners. Amazing.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
I appreciate
Dwayne, No, we appreciate it. We just thank you for all the information that you shared, the courage that you showed, and then the hope that you're actually offering not just to business owners, but to people in general that, life happens, but we don't have to be defeated. We can actually go past that. And then to add your passion in life with your business, that's just the ultimate high right there. Ultimate high.
Well, thank you very much. And I just want to close with this to let your listeners know that you can come from anywhere. My father was a school bus driver. I was supposed to be a school bus driver in Opelousas, Louisiana, a little small Cajun town. And today I find myself in Orlando, Florida, coaching business owners around the world. And it's, it's whatever mind can conceive and believe, you can achieve. So just go for it. You've got nothing else to do.
I love that. And, I can't think of better words to actually close out the show. So, again, Dwayne, thank you. And have an awesome, amazing night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you as well. Good night. Well, listeners, there you have it. Another wonderful show. I do always thank you for listening to tonight's episode of the Entrepreneurs Lounge radio show. I also encourage you to follow us on Facebook where you can get the special offers from our guests, contact information, plus some resources. And if you actually go to our Facebook page now, you're going to see a post where we have 11 small business owners actually talk about fear and how they push past it, along with tonight's show guest. I'm going to invite you to tune in for our Thursday, April 18th show, From Poverty to Millions. One of our featured guests is the Power Up for Profits lady herself, Miss Kathleen Gage. She successfully thrived in business for 25 years and continues to grow her presence, revenues, and reach. And actually in 2019, she's doing that in a new market. And one of the things that is special about Kathleen Gage is that she rose from seemingly insurmountable odds of ending up on the streets in her 20s to become an award-winning business owner, best-selling author, internet sales and market trainer. And today she's a highly sought-after keynote speaker. So we're excited to have her on the Entrepreneurs Lounge radio show. Again, that's going to be on Thursday, April the 18th at 8:30 p.m. Remember, we actually are live every first and third Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we would love to have you join us. And I'm going to close tonight with the reminder that I want you to remember daily, that it's never too late to edit your life. Have an amazing night.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Entrepreneurs Lounge, where we expose the myths of entrepreneurship and release the weight of it all. Real people, real issues, and real talk with expert solutions. Make sure you stay tuned to our Facebook page and thejoyguru.net for show updates, announcements, and to learn how you can be a guest on our show.